The reason why people are like very much very hard to approach is because and this, like they're like this. And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no big guy, You're not. You're a big boy, no. You're small, Like like me it's important.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Faith with real conversation rooted in faith. And today we are talking about service, i.e. unfiltered servitude.
I like that. But that was a good one.
Yeah, so we have my brothers, let me say, my youngest brother. Go ahead and introduce yourself before I get too excited.
Okay, my name is Diakon Yosias. I serve at Debre Brhan Qidus Selassie and part of OTYD.
My name is can I name?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, my name
They know
is.
you already.
You're right. Just in case for those of you that don't, my name is Diakon Rowel Wandumu. I serve here in OTYD under the education team with my brother Yosias here. I'm really excited for today's episode.
Yeah, me too. Oh, and my name is Meraf.
Yes.
Let's go.
So yeah, oh my God. So I feel like this conversation is definitely important, especially for those that are serving, even if they're deacons, if they're not deacons, or if they're even thinking about serving.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been serving for a long time together in OTYD. I feel like even if Yosias wasn't an official servant, he was there from the jump with us.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
When OTYD first got started, and now he is a great deacon, and we've just seen him flourish. So it's been great.
Stop.
Sorry, I'm just so proud of this kid right here. So that's why.
Why are you making it sound like I'm 5 years old or something?
You are.
You started.
Okay, let me stop. He grown.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what is it like serving within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church?
Good question. I'll let my brother start off.
Brother, come on. She was looking dead at you.
She was
looking dead at you.
My glasses are like,
All right, so service within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, what does that look like for me? I mean, service in general, I think can mean a lot of things. I think it encompasses so many aspects. I feel like a lot of the times when the word service or people talk about service, like it's only focused on like the things that you see visibly, like on stage, the deacons, the priests, just in general, like the mazammaran. So anyone that's like on the podium, anyone that's teaching, anyone that's doing a sermon, anyone that's singing mazmur, that's what we kind of think when we talk about service. Like what we see is what mostly what people think whenever we speak of the word service. But in reality, at least for me, when I think about service is I think about any act that you're doing in order to glorify God. Specifically, like it could be something that you're doing to a person. Like, let's say I text you and I'm like, hey, we have Bible study today. Like, make sure to come through. That's a form of service. If I go to Maraf's house and like, I go to her, visit her and be like, hey, it's been a while since I've seen her at church. That's an act of service. You know what I mean? So anything can be a form of service as long as it's done, in my perspective, in glory of God, and it has a mission, which is to bring that person closer to God. So if those two qualifications are met, for me, that's service. It doesn't matter if you're holding the mic. It doesn't matter if you're behind a podium. It doesn't even matter if you have kenat or not, to be honest. Like, agalgalot means anything. So that's how I define service and for me, Matano.
Yeah, and I want to say when you said Ethiopian Orthodox, it doesn't matter like what church you're a part of. Service is so various. Specifically in our church, like kind of what you were saying, anything you do counts as service as long as you are bringing somebody closer to God. And that's kind of what we do. Even in OTYD, it's like one thing I see is people are starting youth groups and people are wanting to develop in the English service, and that's exactly what we want. We want more groups to happen and stuff, but our goal is to be a bridge to come to church, to come and take the body and blood of Christ, to come and to listen to the word of God. And it's not for our own glorification. So service could be anything that is pushing people towards Christ. There's something I read earlier that said, I have tasted Christ. You take the body and blood of our Lord, and you say, I have tasted Christ. And they say, I want other people to taste this as well. I want other people to feel this joy. I want other people to feel this peace. And you have a responsibility to tag as many people as possible. And it's done through anything, like what you said.
Yeah.
Very good say.
Honestly, when you said that, Yosayas, I think I remembered one of the sermons I don't know if it was either of you. It was saying, it's like whenever you're trying to explain to somebody who's never tried honey before, and then it's so sweet, but like if they don't understand sweet, then how do you show them? And so I think it was a quote that also said, like, if you want to glorify Christ, if you have to use words, if you have to, and not that. I always think of that. I always think, how can I truly show somebody Christ without using words? And that's just the day in, day out actions. And I think Abba talks about when we think of service, it's like even the people that like clean up the church or when they stack up chairs. It's like their dedication, like either if it's like every gubai or like every Sunday, and like those people like behind the scenes that nobody ever sees, that nobody even thinks about their service. But yeah, how is it? I guess how are you able to balance? Service can be a lot. I know especially now, the older we get, we have work, we have that responsibility of family. How do you balance your life and then service? Are there times where maybe do you ever want to be like, okay, I can't, I want to give up? Do you guys ever feel like that?
Absolutely.
Do I feel like that?
Right now.
Get me off about that.
Unfiltered for real. Okay, tell me how you really feel.
Go ahead, brother, since you have a lot to say. Also, you go ahead. Do it. Come on.
I ain't gonna do that. They're never gonna mind me back. That's a good question. And to be honest, like I feel like we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like how to balance. Because in life, it's like every few years your life is changing, so you have to continue figuring out how to balance that change. When you're in high school versus when you're in college, and then you start work, and then after work maybe you're looking into a serious relationship, you're looking to get married, then you have kids. We're not at that stage yet, so we're still trying to figure out where in our life and in our point where do we balance our service and our responsibility for the youth and for all people, because every single one of us is called to serve, as well as I have an ambition to make sure that I'm doing well in my career. I want to be successful. Yeah. And even, and was one thing I remember speaking to, Abba Mika was talking to my brother Johannes, and he was saying, we were in college at that time. He was saying a deacon is supposed to be a deacon in the church and a deacon outside the church. Okay, so if you're a deacon in the church, you're serving is supposed to be a good student, a person who makes good grades. If you're in college or high school at that time, same thing. If you're in work, it's a person who balances work, does well. You don't have to be the number one employee, but you're a Christian inside and outside the church. You should represent Christianity in everything that you do. So that aspect, like I feel like I'm still trying to figure it out. There's no answer. There's always a learning experience. There's always getting guidance from fathers. I remember speaking to a few fathers like I don't know what to do. Like I feel like I'm trying to do multiple services at the same time. Like which one is the priority or what, like this and that. And so it's the difficult and it is the struggle of that makes it so worth it. For you, Robel, I mean, you've been serving as well. How do you balance it, or did you find something?
To be honest, I think we go through seasons. You know what I'm saying? Like some seasons in your life, you're not as busy, so service comes as easy as as it seems. Like you'll be able to go to church as much as possible. You'll be able to allocate amount of time to it, and it seems like the best. You know what I mean? You feel like you're on top of everything. You feel like everything is going great. But then, like you said, like life comes in. You know what I mean? You have to go back to school, or other responsibilities at your own churches. Like for instance, within OTYD specifically, like all of us, majority of us, like serve in different parishes. And when I talk about serve, I'm talking about like we're either in Servitude, we're either in the Mahabara Kahinat, serving as deacons or whatever it may be. So it's like we consistently have other responsibilities outside of OTYD, so we're always serving whenever we're at church. Oftentimes I feel like, am I being served? Sometimes, because I'm always the person, what I'm saying, like serving, and you usually don't get the opportunity to serve, but I feel like that's another topic for another podcast. Yeah. But I think to summarize everything, I think you just go through seasons, and I think you never really master it. I think it's just like how you put it. It's you go through it and you're able to seek advice from priests. I know there's been moments in my life where I was like, man, I'm overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm like, I'm trying to balance school. I'm trying to balance my own personal goals and ambitions. At the same time, I'm trying to balance my OTYD service. And then I have my own church's service. So it's like, I'm surrounded, I'm pulled in multiple directions, and it is overwhelming. But at the same time, it's like, at the end of the day, the central goal of service is to glorify God and to bring others closer to God. So it's a form of worship for me. Yeah. It's a form of prayer for me. It's a form of getting closer to God. So even though there's different forms of service for me, it's always been, I'm serving the same God. I'm serving him in different ways, but the outcome is the same, if that makes sense. So, I think seeking guidance, advice, being able to also prioritize your time is important. Exactly. If you don't prioritize your time, man, I'm telling you, you're going to mess up somewhere, because either your school is going to slack or either your service is going to slack. And what I'm telling you, us as Christians, especially Orthodox Christians living in America, like, we cannot slack in anything in life, whether it's in your school, whether it's your own personal goals and ambitions, whether it's at church, like at any aspects of your life, you have to be on the top of the game. Like the same thing, actually, it wasn't even from Abba Mikhail that told me this, but it's like a long time ago, like my mom was always telling me, it's like, as a Christian, you have to always like you have to be at the top of everything, because you are representing Christ. And it's like, my greatest fear, she says, for me, like she was telling me, is like, I don't want you to be a stumbling block for others, because they see you serving at church. They see you consistently being at church completely. And if you end up slacking at your school and your grades start slipping, they're going to attribute that because you're a servant. Yeah. Like, you're not making good grades. You're not going, you're not going to the best schools or all of these things, because he spent his time in church. Yeah. Because he served in church. So it's a reflection. Us as Christians, like, like the cross that we're bearing, it's not an easy thing. It's a big, big deal. So it's a reflection of who we are. So I have to be on top of my game, because like, so many things are at stake. I don't want people to think like, oh, he's a deacon, that's why he's serving all of these things, that's why his grades are slipping or his life is not in order. No, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna go to school, make the greatest grades, have an amazing job, buy the house that I want, whatever, and then I'm gonna be a great servant.
I'm motivated.
Let's do it.
No, facts. I just went down my list of like success things that I want to accomplish, and honestly, moral sa tahangan. So
can we do our goals together?
Literally.
Oh, New Year's is coming up. New Year's resolution. I got you.
So yeah. So even though with all of this, I find it very difficult at times, or not difficult, but I find myself in times where I am serving so much. Like, I am serving every single day. Like, there has been a point where, Robo can attest, especially when we first started OTYD, we were at church every single day. And it's like, we were at church until midnight. Yeah. Like,
I heard horror stories from
relax. But we were, and it's like, thinking back, it's like we were fighting to just, I don't even know how to say it. We are fighting to allow the Holy Spirit within us. Like, when you're fighting that good fight. And honestly, I didn't realize it then. I think then we were just like we were just on a mission, and we were just go. But now thinking back, I'm just like, wow, I was really fighting to allow the Holy Spirit to work through me, to work through all of us. You know what I mean? And yeah, but I find myself sometimes that I'm serving so much, and I'm doing the act of service, but I'm not growing spiritually. Like, it's the act of like the service that I'm doing, like whether it's I'm teaching someone Mazmur, or I'm like, sitting down teaching my kids at Georgis, or whatever it is. Like, I'm just so focused on the act and not like, okay, this is, how can I grow with this? Am I letting the Holy Spirit guide me, and am I growing spiritually? And now I find myself sometimes like, I'm just focused on the act and not necessarily like, okay, how is this bringing me closer to God? Like, I'm not really focusing on glorifying God. It's just like, this needs to get done. It's another thing on my list. And not words of advice, personally for myself. How I need that from you guys. What do you guys do to help make sure that you're continuously going as you're giving these sermons, as you're doing whatever service you're doing? Ooh, that was a good question.
That's still trying to learn that, you know? I think it begins with the end in mind. It's like everything I'm doing is to glorify God. When it comes to teaching, I feel like it's a little bit easier where you're writing a sermon, so you're learning, so you are growing with God. Every time you write a sermon, you are hopefully growing with God because you're learning more. It's a little bit easier, but still, it's like dedicating time for your personal growth is important, where you are taking a class outside of the whatever you're teaching. You're taking a class outside of it because you need to also grow yourself. So you have to continue eating the spiritual fruit. And if you don't do that, and if you're always continuing to serve without filling up your cup, it's so difficult to maintain that for a long period of time. You can do that for bursts of energy, but maintaining that for a long period of time is so hard. And so it's like a journey and a marathon of service where you are teaching, but you are also learning. You are teaching mezmur, but you're also learning new mezmur. You're putting it on, you're listening to it for yourself. You're setting aside 10, 15 minutes to do an important prayer or whatever it is. You're reading the Bible, or you have your Salot book next to you and you're reading. So it's like, what priority do you give your personal self? And when you're in the midst of that service, you completely forget about yourself. And that's the hard part. For example, the last couple of months, we're preparing for this OTYD conference. That's all we were thinking about. I don't know. It was like you don't have a lot of time to think about your own personal growth because we had meetings every 2-3 days. We had this and that. And so it was so difficult. But it's like, my service could be up here, but my relationship with God could be over here because I'm not feeding this part when I'm only feeding the service part. And so it's learning to maintain it. For you, I mean, same thing, or what is it?
I think for me, this is actually crazy because I've been battling with this for a very long time because for me it's two. Like I took your question as like growing while you're a servant as like two different categories. Andinga, my relationship with God, and second one would be like how my knowledge in general, like church knowledge, all of that stuff. So I guess I can give you my own personal advice, what kind of worked for me. Hopefully that can resonate with the audience. But as long as I've been within the church, I've always been serving as a deacon, or before I even was a deacon, I was a Servitude. We grew up. Abran Gannat again. Shout out.
I just want that. Go ahead. What was that? Gannat again.
Gannat again.
Thank you.
The OGs. This guy.
My church, my home.
If you know, you know. Gannat again.
If you know, you know.
Me and
I don't have somebody else
together. Yeah, you by yourself.
They know.
But like we grew up together. So like I remember even as a kid, like before I was a deacon, I was a mazammaran. You know what I mean? So I was a part of the church choir, and then I grew up and I got promoted to deaconhood. Right? That's how it is. You become mazammaran, and then you become tzabal boy, and then you become diakon.
Tzabal boy, mazammaran.
No,
what are you talking?
You got demoted, brother.
Yeah.
No,
brother, you got demoted and then promoted.
Tzabal boy, mazammaran. And then from then on, you could get.
All right, brother. All right.
Who promoted you anyway? We need to talk about
what church
that.
is this again? What church is this again? But Chagan, what I was going to say, right, is for me, like whenever you're in service, it is very difficult to feel like you're being served. And like I said, you gave a really beautiful advice on how to grow within the relationship with God while you're being a servant. I think Pope Shenouda always says, right, when he talks about service, he says service is a school of prayer. Meaning like your service and your prayer life has to go hand in hand. If there is a moment when you are doing service and you're slacking or you're not praying about your service, something is wrong. Like either like si jamar, like your agalgalot is not aisamram, you know what I mean? It's not going to take root and it's not going to flourish and it's not going to bring fruits because you're not praying about your service. So if your prayer life and your service is together, that means you're praying about your service and you're also asking God to help you within service, because obviously when you're a servant, you don't want yourself to be shown. You want Christ that's dwelling inside of you to be shown to others. That's what you want, right? Like this is the essence of service, is to bring Christ out of you to others. That's the whole essence of service. So the more you're praying, the more that's possible. And the more you pray, obviously, the more you're getting closer to God. So as a servant, you should always have a consistent prayer life, whether you're serving in any other way. Secondly, how am I growing in my relationship with God? I would say, or am I like liturgically, or besides liturgically, in the sense of like theologically, or I'm trying to grow in knowledge of God? I would say that it's all about just seeking knowledge. It's all about wanting to learn about your church, wanting to go actually learn about, because it scares me, to be honest, how many of us servants, and this is me included, know about God, but don't know him. Like, we know about God, but we really don't know him. Meaning, like, if someone was to come up to Yosayas or me or any of us and ask us or challenge us about the divinity of Christ, or talk to us about the Holy Trinity or the doctrines or something like that, like, it's very, like, you know what I mean? Most of us will be flustered, and we will probably be like, oh, let me go to a priest, or and it's like, that could have been an opportunity to use, where God could have used you in order to touch somebody, in order to bring someone closer, in order to educate someone about the divinity of Christ, like to show who God is, right? So for me, that's really scary. Like, I don't want to be put in, and I've been put in those situations where I just didn't know, and the other person was like, Dane, like, you're a servant to your deacon, but you don't even know your church. Like, you don't even know.
That is though. Like, and I've seen the same thing, you know what I mean? And also it's like, you know, with the kids I teach in Georgis, they always like have questions, and I always tell them this, like, you know, read books, like, ask questions, you know. Why do you think that is? Especially within, I feel like I see it a lot within our church. Like, we're always questioned, but then we never have answers, and it's just like, why is that? Like, why don't we as Orthodox Christians, especially Ethiopian Orthodox Christians, like, do you think like we're afraid to go seek that knowledge, or like, what is it?
I think we just have not hit that point of it yet. Like, we're still in the introductory, let's serve, let's learn, but not at that level of depth yet. We have not reached it yet. It's not like the information is not there. The Coptics have done such an amazing job with all the information. We have so much information in English. Like, Ethiopian Orthodox, we have so many books.
Yeah.
It's available. It's just like, we're still at the surface level, and we don't want to take it to the next level yet. But I think the generation that's coming up, who have grew up with this English ministry, are going to be like super smart. And we too have to be an example for them. That's what I think. I think it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen.
I also think it's the mindset of people. I'll tell you this, for the longest, like, you could bring a book in front of me, Al Kaftum. Because in my mind, I'm like, this is beyond my capability of understanding, one. And number two,
yeah,
it's boring. Like, that's literally, like, I feel like people are gonna be like, why am I gonna sit here and talk about, you know, the economy of the Holy Trinity, and how, you know, theosis and all of these things, and it's like, it seems daunting. Even the terminologies, they seem
difficult.
daunting. It's like there's this barrier. Oftentimes I resemble it to like how in our church we have like the curtains, and then like the Beit HaMikdash inside, and people are like, oh my God, you know, like the reverence and the glory they have, but at the same time, the more like yifarallu to even approach it. You know what I mean? It's like, like, this is for the holies of the holies. Like, this is for select few. And it's like, you guys, the church is open to anybody. Like, if you want to learn the church doctrine, not just wanting, but also it's like, you have to. Especially if you're a servant, especially Sunday school servants. And it's like, you know, I have a friend, she teaches like a lot of the kids, and the questions these kids ask, madahani alam. But I'm no migaramo, and
makes you shake your head.
But I'm like, it's not simple. It's very like, you know, like, why can't like the devil repent, and like, could God save him if the devil wanted to repent? Like, some questions like that. Like, it's just like, you never think, but it's like, it makes you think. You're like, no, yeah, like, how come I never thought about that? That's a good question.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's like, it takes first. It's like, it's not daunting. You can read it, you can understand it, and it's available in English, and it's available. And the best thing about our church is, so many people have gone through it, that there's so many people experienced enough to help you and guide you through it. It's not like, oh my gosh, this is too much. No, don't think of it as a veiled curtain where you can't touch it. Only deacons and priests and yatakaddasaso. No, it's available for you. All you have to do is desire it, and get that mentality of like, oh, it's too hard to understand. No, you can simplify it.
Yeah.
That's my belief.
Well said.
No. Wow, but I'm like, dang, man, because I honestly, when I think about it, I have multiple books. Like I have a whole shelf. I bought a bookshelf and I started collecting books, and I would say, okay, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this. You have no idea how many books I've started. And the bookmarks are like halfway through. And then I'd just be like, okay, I got what I needed to get.
Yeah.
But speaking of books, I think the first book that I think that really captured my interest, and it wasn't in English that I could understand. Again, I'm going to mention our brother, Dr. Dawit. I Need Answers.
Yeah,
I Need Answers.
Really
that was
book.
such a great book. Honestly, that was one of the books where I started sharing it with like Ethiopian Orthodox friends, just because of like the way he spoke. First of all, it sounded just like him.
Yeah, but
like I genuinely felt like I was talking to Dawit at that moment in time, and I was just like, "Bro, this is something he's saying." I can hear his voice, even though it's me reading, like I can hear the audio in my head. Yeah. And it's just a game, 2 players. Yeah. If you haven't gotten that book, get that book. It's on Amazon.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was one thing you said. I think about like servants. And just having that responsibility of like showing up and just being the best people that we can be as servants. How can we hold each other accountable within not even just service, like just as Christians? I feel like a lot of the time there is this stigma, especially like, wait, I can't tell Josias like he needs to get his act together because I don't want him to feel judged, especially if he's somebody new in the church. My God. I feel like there's just such a stigma from like people that don't serve as like they see us servants as like people who are judgmental. So like, how is it that we can hold servants accountable, and then just other Christians who don't necessarily serve? Like, how do we hold each other accountable?
But that's all you.
To be honest, I feel like accountability starts with that safe space and trustworthiness. It has to be from somebody that knows someone very well to say, I know this is not, it might hurt your heart, but I need to tell you this because I'm a deep brother of yours. You know that. And it's not coming from a place of judgment or a place of hatred or jealousy or anything. It's like people are looking at you. You're an example for other people. Like, I didn't like that you did this, you know, and it can only be said from people that you are very close with. So if I see somebody, even if I'm not close to them, I could mention it to a sister and say, hey, do you mind like talking to her and saying a few of these things because this happened? And it's accountability is one of those things. It's difficult even for people who've been in the church for a while, because you're like, I don't want to say that to him. He's an older deacon. He's been here for a long time.
You might take it the wrong way.
Yeah. And it's that's scary. Saying it to a new person is a little scary because like, I don't want to tell him that because then he might not come to the church. But it's like accountability comes from really a deep sense of love and affection from another person to tell you, hey, you got to do better on these things. If you see it and change your perspective to that standpoint versus why are they always criticizing me? Why are they always telling me I need to do this? It's like, that's the wrong way of doing it. I think all of us as Christians, we need to do better at taking criticism or taking that accountable message from somebody and saying, hey, you know what, they're right. I haven't been showing up as early as I used to, or I haven't been doing the assignment that I've been giving to as fiery or as passionate as I have in the past. And so you have to have a safe space. You have to have a good person to come talk to them. And then from then on, as you get more comfortable, you can open up more to other people. And that's why as servants, that fellowship is so important. If you have a good relationship with everyone within the group, you have not a big issue or difficulty to talk to anyone and say, hey, can I talk to you for 5 minutes, and tell them what you need to tell them. But you as well need to take that if someone speaks to you, so.
I think we do a terrible job of that. And then what I dislike is like, I feel like as Christians, we're very like, well, Jesus Christ wouldn't call me out. I think he sure would.
I think he would.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Out all the time.
Yeah, and it's not even just that. It's like I think we forget like Judgment Day is gonna come.
Yeah.
And then That's the biggest call out day ever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sorry.
You don't
like,
need another call
you
out.
don't need another, like that whole day.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? And Yigabal, you know, Christos now, like, you know,
Yeah.
he's here
Yeah.
to judge us. But I'm just saying, like, if I care about your soul, why shouldn't I say something
Exactly.
to you? You know what I mean? Like, why couldn't, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
And it's just, I think we just have a terrible time of like taking criticism.
Exactly.
But I think that's just like human nature, though.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's human nature. You can say good. I feel like in the, I guess, the umbrella of Christianity, the whole purpose of existing is to be more like God. So there's no type of excuse that can be like, you know, or this is how I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah.
This is my nature. No, actually, your nature was to be created in the likeness of God, which means you're open.
Mhm.
Meaning you are open to be humble. The reason why people are like very much very hard to approach is because and does, you know, like they're like this.
Hmm.
And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no big guy, you know? You're
Yeah.
not. You're a big boy,
Yeah.
no. You're
Yeah.
small, you know? Like, like, it's important.
Yes.
You have to be humble. Why, like, you are like chin hub, like, is it not
You
impossible?
don't look down. They just,
Yeah, like, it's ridiculous because it's like, you are in that, first of all, you're in the house of God
Exactly.
first. Second, God chose you. Like, he chose you to be in this position. Like, he picked you out of where you were, and you know where you were. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it's a matter of
Sheesh.
remembering where you've come from. Like, pipe down, you were dust, and to dust you will return. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally,
We were dust. We were dust.
we.
We all were
You
dust.
see, you know what I'm saying?
I'm kidding.
So it's like, that's what I'm trying to say is like, I feel like there's a level of humility that we all need to have.
Exactly.
Base, that's like the first thing. If you can't have humility, I can't approach you at the same time the most. Like, I'm gonna be closed off. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be like, who is he to talk to me? Like, who, you know what I mean? Like, no, that's not a good idea. I mean, in service, you have to have humility. That's the only way God can work in you, and that's the only way I believe that your service can also bear fruit.
Exactly.
Is if you're able to be humble. That way, when God comes down and he sees, and when he's, you know, wanting to bless, when he sees a bunch of people saying, man, I'm gonna go with their heads up, right? He's not gonna bless the service that you're doing. So you're not gonna bear fruit. So the essence of everything is be more like God, be more like Christ, meaning be humble. He humbled himself to come down from heaven to take our nature on. There's no greater humility. So humble one another. And then if there's anything that, how you beautifully said, if there's anything that, you know, that I want to bring up to Yosayas or Miraf, I feel comfortable enough because I know that this person is humble. He is made in the image of God. I can tell them, like, he gives off the energy of God, and I love that. So I can approach him with love, and he won't take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, let's not take criticism the wrong way. Let's all just resemble Christ and be humble, honestly.
Me and you had crucial conversations
Multiple
multiple times.
Yes.
You called me out, I called you out, said we need to do better on this, and we had multiple talks. And I feel like, to be honest, that made our relationship better. It made our relationship better. We trusted each other to say, hey, like, I know, you know, he has my back, I have his back.
Yeah, I believe that 100%.
No. Do you guys think whenever you first, and maybe this be catered to deacons, but when y'all were first, I guess y'all were kids, do you guys think you guys learned humility at a younger age, or like the older you got and the more you understood like what service meant, what it meant to be a deacon? Do you feel like you learned humility then? Because I feel like, you know, I always hear, no, this is like a genuine question, because I always hear like, oh, I just got thrown into deaconhood, or I just got thrown in, and not, it's just like, I don't know, like, do we ever, because I feel like, you know, we've lost so many people within service, we've lost, and sometimes I wonder, is it because they never understood humility, or is it because, you know, like, you know, what is it? And now I wonder, when you said humility, do you feel like you learned humility along the way, or was something that was kind of ingrained in you at first? At Ganatetsugi?
I would say like all my life, God has been humbling me. I'm telling you. And it is honestly the reality, because when I look back at my life within the church, even the childhood, it's like I've always felt like not that I didn't belong, but it's like like gananing, like I have so much to learn. And it's like, because I knew, even from the beginning, like I never thought of myself as like the guy or whatever. Because it's like, I think I had so much to learn. Like us as deacons, I'm pretty sure you could relate. It's like, we come in as underdogs, meaning like we have no idea. Like we're learning the language, we're learning Qadasi, we're learning. So it's like, there's like a season in your life where you're learning a lot, and that humbles you a lot. So there's even coming in, you have that fear of God. Like you're not gonna be in the Beit HaMikdash right away. You know what I mean? So like there's a level of humility from the jump that you're gonna have. But the issue what comes in is once you pass those 2 years of, I guess, novicehood, and you become, more of a like a now
veteran.
a veteran type of thing. You know what I mean? Not even veteran. It's like you were an intern, now you are entry level. When you enter that entry level like deaconhood, yeah, it is me. And then so I'm going to be the one to do Qadasi. I'm gonna hold the biggest and the most beautiful cross. And like I have to have the beautiful, and it's like what really helped me, I think, is the people that I had around me. Like Nafsa Choi Marina, literally our teacher, like they paved the path for service in my life. Looking at his service, looking at the way that he approached service, and also like being around him, just generally like salah sabo kind of like it shaped my understanding of what true service is, because he was so humble in his service. Even though he had the knowledge of a priest, like he was more than that, the knowledge of a Marigita, all of these things, the way that he approached service in the most humble way, like batitina. And one of the things I love about our church is, even in service, it's like Gana Sit Gabus, like when a new deacon comes in, or when a new person that's like serving comes in, it's like, no, you go in. And it's like, it's to show you, like there's service, like so naskadam, like put someone ahead of you. You know what I mean? And then there's that, like even Abatuch, whenever there's someone comes, you stand up. That's a form of, I saw that growing up. So my mind is like, oh wow, humility, respecting others, doing all these things. Like the reason why in our church, Gulbat Misamo is not just because you're loving that person. It's a sign of love and admiration. It's a sign of humility. Like, oh, I'm bowing myself down low. Like I'm nothing. Exabir bless me. I'm nothing. That's literally the act of humility. So it's like, if people are just kissing the knee without even doing anything, like, come on, you know what I mean? Everything in the church, she's teaching you throughout your church service to be humble. Look at the fathers. Look at the things that I'm trying to teach you. This is what the church is doing. You just got to pay attention and learn from her.
That's good. My path was a little different. Because I was ordained a little bit older, I was extremely humble. Like, we have young deacons at our church. They're geniuses. They're very smart deacons. Like, I look up to them a lot. And so because of that, even if if I grew up already knowing that they know more than me, I need to lower myself and learn from them as well.
And they're younger.
Much younger, and very short also. So let's use it's hard, but I
got that one over there.
I got that. At least I got that over them. I have respect for them.
Yeah.
And I have respect for my fathers because I grew up like saying, one day if I become a deacon, like I want to serve with a pure heart. So I went in there knowing that I can serve at a higher capacity than what I was doing before, and then God just blessed it. And so I love what you said about humility. Everything you said is correct. How we respect our priests, how we respect our fathers, how we respect even deacons, same rank, but they're older. They've been doing this much longer. You let them ahead of you. And so all of that you learn within the church, and then you continue to pass it. I think a problem is as you serve more, the humility a little bit decreases. Like what you were saying, you serve more, you're given a more important title. And so a little bit of pride comes, a little bit of ego comes, and that's the part where God says your service is not blessed anymore. Your sacrifice that you're doing, the holy sacrifice that you're doing, it's better to keep it to yourself than it is to sacrifice to me, because your heart is more important. And that humble, pure heart, the heart that's filled with love, the heart that's filled with love for all his neighbors and brothers and sisters, that is more important than whatever that you do within the church. And so it's still a learning thing. One of the seasons, it still changes, but we're still growing in it, and we still have to continue in it. I think the more I serve now, it's changing to where I'm becoming more humble the more I serve. So hopefully you continue in that path, and that's what we got to do.
It's so funny. I know this is going to sound so bad, but I love seeing when a deacon who, ካፈረሰ በኋላ when he comes back to the
Mm.
church. When I'm telling you, I think that speaks more volumes than, no offense to you guys, than like a deacon who stayed.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because you truly show that it doesn't matter if I'm ቤተ መቅደስ ውስጥ, if I'm out, I am serving God regardless of where I'm standing. And now service, I think, is more than just like ልብስ መልበስ,
Yes.
holding a mic, holding a cross, or just, ከበሮ መምታት.
Mhm.
Service is beyond. Service is, I don't think there's one thing that can really say, okay, this is what service is. Then I think if you do it with complete heart, በንጹህ ልቦና ካረከው, I think truly God will accept it. It can be sweeping,
100%.
and not God will accept it. So hopefully we can do everything with humility, like our fathers. We can do everything with just a pure heart,
Mhm.
and knowing who we are glorifying. I think if we know who we're glorifying, all in all, with those things, I think God will accept our service. So yeah.
Amen.
Thank you guys for joining me today with our unfiltered talk.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Please bring us back. በጣም
I got y'all.